Hello, everyone. I'm Albert from ValleyDAO, and I'm here to present to you the Town Hall update of April 2025. We will be highlighting some of the portfolio projects and their most recent research updates. We will also be highlighting the most recent developments at our new product initiative, Phlo. And then finally, Tom will be talking about some of our newly introduced marketing strategy and the results that it has yielded. So starting off with Cocoa Zero that is taking place at Imperial College London. The project was started in February 2024 and runs until February 2026 with the focus on the foods of the future. So how we are securing food production for the coming 10 to 20 years. And the main impact that we're looking to have with this project is to just reduce the emissions from shipping cocoa. Given that we want to produce cocoa ingredients in the lab, enabling local production. We then won't have to ship, for example, like cocoa plants and cocoa ingredients from halfway across the globe. An additional impact is that we can decrease deforestation linked to cocoa farming. If we don't have to grow the plant itself, we can repurpose that land, for example, for habitation, or just leave it as it is for the animals that live in these forests. And then finally, improving the supply chain resilience by enabling local chocolate production. And I will be talking a bit more about that in the coming slide. The greatest market opportunity that we see is it's a pretty big market. Chocolate is expected to be worth $170 billion globally, growing with an annual rate of 4%. Um, so why cocoa? For the last 5 years, a lot of the cocoa plantations have been disrupted due to these plants being very vulnerable to changes in the climate. So a small temperature fluctuation can spoil a complete harvest. Um, and what this has resulted in is a surge of the price of cocoa by nearly 300% since 2023. And this is highlighted in this chart here. We can just see just in the last 2 to 3 years, the price of cocoa has almost increased by 3 times. And this is not good. And people will complain if they don't get their chocolate. And the way that we're aiming to solve this problem is by leveraging a special type of yeast called Yaroya lipolytica to produce fats similar to those found in cocoa. So by engineering this yeast to produce fats found in cocoa, and then using these fats and test them in a wide range of different chocolate formulations. The progress that we've had to date on this project is that we've been able to introduce the genes responsible for fat production in the cocoa plant itself. So we identified the genes from the plant itself, isolated those, and then expressed them in yeast. And after a couple of benchtop experiments, we grew the engineered yeast. Um, on a smaller scale, and we analyzed the fat content before and after the rounds of engineering, and the result to date has been quite interesting. So the orange here is the non-engineered yeast, and what you see around here is the percentage composition of different fatty acids, and these fatty acids create the texture and the mouthfeel and just the properties of chocolate. And it's really important to get these ratios right in cocoa fat. The dark area here is from regular cocoa butter, like straight from the plant. And then this orange here is the ValleyDAO engineered strain. So we've gone essentially from this composition that we see in orange to this light blue composition, indicating that we are getting closer and closer to the exact composition of cocoa butter, which is super exciting. So what are the next steps? So we have partnered up with University College London. We're in the process of establishing this partnership at the lab of Professor Leonardo Rios Solis, who is also quite a known researcher with this particular type of yeast, and we're looking to manufacture the first 0.5 kilo of these fats, and then we will be sending these samples to chocolate manufacturers for testing and see how they behave in real formulations. So our next project, Hempy, has had some quite exciting developments in the last few months, as you might have seen on our socials. Um, and Hempy is actually already a tradable project, so you can find it by going to Dextools or DexScreener and then just search for Hempy, and then it's tradable on Base. The focus for this project is the focus area or the field or the industry is in materials and textiles. And the market opportunity, so the global hemp market is predicted to fall at around 36 billion by 2030. And in comparison to, for example, the chocolate market, it's growing at a rate of 22% instead of just 4%. So this indicates like a really strong growth potential for hemp as a material. Um, and we want to apply and modify and improve hemp so that it can be better used in the clothing industry. And if we manage to do that, we can eliminate, for example, polyester or plastic or oil-based clothing. We can decrease the amount of water and pesticides used, for example, cotton. And we can also improve the durability and recyclability of clothing because hemp is just a much more durable material that can also be recycled because it's a natural material. So why hemp fibers? I think I touched on this in the previous slide. It grows 2 times faster as cotton. It almost requires no pesticides to grow, which is a big factor. It uses 50% less water, yields 3 times more fibers per acre than cotton. So it has a significant competitive advantage in its properties on the field as it's growing. The only downside is that it is stiffer than cotton, and it's just not as smooth. And this is where the Hempy project looks to drive a change. And the way that we're looking to do this is by using enzymes. So, what is the composition of hemp in comparison to cotton? As you can see, uh, hemp has less amount of cellulose and a higher amount of hemicellulose. Has also a higher amount of pectin and lignins. Uh, Lignin and pectin are responsible for creating this stiff uh, structure and texture of hemp. And so by decreasing those, we can mimic the properties of cotton. And the way we're doing that is by enzymes. So enzymes, they can bind to the fibers, the different fibers in hemp, and remove those particular fibers. And there are unique enzymes that only bind to particular fibers. So we can choose our enzymes in a way that makes it specific for a particular fiber. And then the second goal is to spin those fibers into hemp that can then compete with the properties of cotton and polyester. Our progress to date has been quite significant. So starting off just based on visual inspection, so this is the blank. So this is the sample that was not treated. This is just raw hemp fiber, and here are different samples that have been treated by a particular enzyme. And as we can just see on visual inspection, the hemp fibers become like more faded in color, which means that lignin is actively being removed. Uh, However, it's too early to say if like the fibers are becoming softer. So the next step is to actually put these fibers under a really strong microscope and then just look at the fiber structure itself. We've also managed to demonstrate that these enzymes are working much better than expected. So once again, this is a non-treated sample, and this is enzyme treatment with low concentration, which demonstrates this more like brighter, more faded color. But as we increase concentration, it actually ends up just degrading the fiber, which is a little bit expected, but it also demonstrates that we won't need to use as much enzymes as we thought that we needed. So we just need a very low concentration, and this will be to our significant advantage because it will decrease the overall cost once scaling up this technology. So what are the next steps for the Hempi project? So we're going to analyze these tested fibers. So we've conducted almost 20 different experiments using different compositions of enzymes. Um, and now we're going to look at all of these samples under a microscope in partnership with the University of Innsbruck. Um, and then what we're also doing alongside of the research, so more on like the business development front, is that we're looking to create sort of like a start earlier with creating a distribution channel of our hemp clothing that will be derived from this technology. So the way that we're doing that is like we are looking at um, existing hemp fabrics. Usually they're composed of 50-50 hemp cotton, because if they were 100% cotton, they would just not be wearable or nice to wear. So today people are mixing them with cotton. And so we're going to use what is already out there in order to create the limited edition hoodie for our community, also the wider DeSci ecosystem, and yeah, essentially anybody who is interested in this material. Our goal for this limited edition Hempy hoodie is to have it be the most durable hoodie in your closet. And we will also enable incentives for early buyers by actually compensating them in Grow and Hempy tokens for purchasing the hoodie. Okay, and then finally, Cardaforge. So this project was recently funded through Catalyst, and can be traded under the ticker Forge on Base. And the focus of this project is on metals recycling. And why we want to focus on metals recycling is because the supply chain of critical minerals is becoming much more uncertain. For example, China is limiting the supply of rare earth metals, and this basically disrupts the whole world, like the production of chipsets, semiconductors, and so on. Um, and this project focuses on the biological extraction of metals from electronic waste. So there's a treasure trove of metals just buried in the ground because there is no efficient way of recycling these. And we can actually, take those components and shred them down into a very fine powder and then mix them with reagents that are produced by microbes. These reagents are acidic, so they can break down the metal components, but they also have certain other properties which they bind to the metal itself and makes it fall out of the solution, and then we can much simpler like harvest it and use it for new metals. And this is really what this project is all about. So using microbes, the benefit of using microbes is that we can do it at ambient temperatures, so we don't have to raise the temperature to 1,000 degrees, which um, current e-waste recycling is doing. We can do it at ambient temperatures and save a bunch of energy. And the progress to date is that so for this project, we will be using printed circuit boards that we have managed to source. And we have also shredded them into a really, really fine powder. And this is what will be mixed with the microbial reagents. And then we have also analyzed the composition. So we have almost 10% aluminum, 10% copper, 10% iron, and these are the metals that we will be focusing on extracting due to the demand on the market for these metals. We have prepared the cultures, so just preparing them for the initial testing, and then we've also designed a new type of bioreactor system that will be uh, uh, composing a significant aspect of the intellectual property for this project. So what are the next steps? So we're going to, of course, construct the new bioreactors. So we are getting quotes from different suppliers for the materials. And then we will also run the initial trials for extracting the metals from the electronic waste. So quite a fair bit to go. But we expect some significant milestones to be achieved around the halfway mark of the project, which is expected to be around November, December of this year. So that's all, folks. Thank you for listening to the research updates, and we can't wait to share more with you in the coming months on all of these projects.
And now for some wonderful Phlo updates. So the first thing to say is that we heard you. So over the past 3 weeks, we've given over 50 users access to the latest Translate feature demo to collect their feedback. And we have collected some very important key points here. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list, but this is just some of the common themes that we noticed throughout some of the feedbacks that we got. But I have literally about a 5 or 7 page document full of feedback. So really well done, and thank you to everybody who tested out and gave us very useful material to continue to make this tool even better. So one of the first comments was that it takes a while to load, and it would be nice if we could cut down the time that it takes and or give us something to do while we wait. So we have actually made some improvements there, which I'm excited to talk about in a second. Um, Another person said that they're seeing several people said actually that they're seeing some questionable sources appearing. And so they'd be worried about sharing those results with those references present. And that totally makes sense, right? You don't want to be sharing a report or some suggestions on research if you do not trust the sources that it is using to make those suggestions. So absolutely valid feedback, and we are definitely trying to resolve that. Now, the next one is that sometimes it misinterprets information or delivers responses that are not relevant to my project. Right now, there's no way for you to be able to actually kind of refresh or rerun some of those analyses, and so that's obviously a problem, right? If it doesn't understand the question or it gives you answers that are not useful, then the entire kind of run is compromised. So definitely makes sense, that one. Um, this one here is a bit of a joke, but it's it's a synthesis of several comments that we heard. Chat is king, bring it back. And so because we've done like some very let's say artful wrapping of different AI agents, having them talk to each other and can carry out different tasks in this whole workflow, a lot of that is black box, right? You just answer some questions and you get some results back. But what people feel are missing is that ability to chat to the AI, to be able to understand where it's pulling in context, what context it even has, how it's going to use that, and to also be able to provide additional context that maybe falls outside of the scope of some of the questions that it has asked you, the user. And so we're also looking into bringing that back. And the final one is that I don't understand what to write and how much detail I should include for some of the questions. So again, very, very valid feedback. And that has led to several improvements that we have been making on the copy and just the user experience of the Research Copilot in general. And so what did we actually do about it? Well, I'm going to show you a video demo of some of the latest updates in a moment. But what I can say to summarize is that we enable parallel processing of research queries, so you can get your results in up to 50% less time than the first demo. And what this basically means is that in the previous demo, we were running question 1, wait for the answers, running question 2, wait for the answers, running question 3, and so on and so on. Now, what we're doing is identifying all of the questions that are independent. So the ones that don't require answers from a previous question in order to be sent off. And then we can send those all off immediately. So for in the case where you might have 10 research questions, 5 of them might be independent, and therefore we can run 5 of them in parallel at the same time. And you'll get answers for 5 research queries in the same time that it would have taken to get you 1 research query. So obviously that is a huge improvement in performance. It's obviously variable depending on how many queries are independent within your particular project, but more on that in the demo. We also added a new approval flow that allows users to review and approve of the research results before the next query is sent off. So as I just said, we kind of had this, we didn't have that ability before. Everything, if something was wrongly generated or an answer wasn't entirely relevant, then that answer would still be used in the next query and the next query. And obviously it would then grow the kind of inaccuracy in the overall recommendations that it's giving. Now we've done away with that. If you're not happy, you can say why, and the agent will rerun the query with your new suggestions. Then it will automatically resume the original flow. So no extra intervention needed from you. You just check the results natively within Phlo. If you're happy, you approve of them, and then they will go on and run the next questions. We're also updating the Research Copilot questions and the copy, as mentioned, to include concrete examples of what and how you should write your answers. So it should be much, much clearer for everybody in how to approach that task. You can now also select sources that you want to exclude from the reports before rerunning the analysis. So going back to point 2, as well as being able to approve the results that you get, you're also able to select or deselect references that will be included in the final reports. And so, yeah, no more sources that are a little bit shaky, no more people's Medium articles or Substacks being cited. You can, if anything like that pops up, you can immediately stamp it out and it won't affect your overall research results. And then we're also bringing chat back better than ever before, and I'm super excited to talk about exactly how we're going to do that. Okay, super excited to show you some of the updates we've made. So here I am inside a project, an example project that we created a while back. This particular project is aiming to create a baby clothes biosensor that detects hormonal changes in baby sweat and tears, and changes color when it needs something. So it can differentiate between hunger, discomfort, upset, sickness. And so the idea is that it would be able to make the babies be able to communicate with their mothers more effectively. Obviously, completely blue sky project, but we like to do that and have some fun while we're testing this tool out. And actually, it's a good way for us to be able to measure the results because we want it to be able to help you create blue sky technologies. So the first thing is just looking at these questions. So we've reworded some of the questions, but you'll also notice that many of them have these tooltips here where we've actually included written examples of how you should format your answers. And so everything should be a lot clearer there. You'll also see we've swapped the TRL and flow diagram boxes around, so it's just a bit more obvious that you're supposed to complete that first. The nice thing here is that you open this tooltip, you actually have the TRL scale right there. So very easy to be able to gauge that. We also, in this one, have added a document upload. So now you can add your own reports, research data that will then be fed into the AI and go into the design process of your new technology. So that is super awesome as well. In this case, I don't actually want to upload anything, so I've just uploaded a blank PDF for it to be able to continue. So obviously we've got our next steps generated here. These ones were actually pretty good. We ran this once before and the results were quite impressive. And then what you'll notice here, same as always, we've got our queries, but if you hover over these, you'll see which ones are dependent on each other. In this case, probably a bit of a bad example to show you what I wanted to show you, because we've actually enabled parallel processing of research queries. So in cases where there are queries that do not depend on each other, in this case there are none, they actually all depend on the answer from question 1 in order to continue. They will be run in parallel. So rather than waiting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to finish, you would in theory have 1, 4, 5, and 6 running at the same time, get all of the results at once. So in like 25% or 50% less time. But obviously it really depends on the queries. And in this case, there are no parallel queries. So unfortunately, we will just have to wait. But what we've also done is added a verification process. So here you can see it's actually paused, yellow, or orange rather. Okay, looks like it's ready now. So let's open it up And you can see here we've got the research report is actually presented natively now, so no external PDFs. We can scroll, it's all nicely formatted. Great, great, great. And yeah, looks like it's generated some pretty useful results. And here's the extracted variables, so we can actually see these. Nice. Okie dokie. And then let's hit verify because we're actually happy with that one. Okay, we've got our second set of results, but this time we are going to reject it to see what we can do here. So actually we don't have any necessarily good reason to reject this, but let's scroll down, let's have a look. So the dyes that it was identified are these. Okay, let's just say reject. So what you can actually do is you can add a rejection reason, and you can select or deselect sources that you don't want it to include. So I can say these dyes are not the cheapest and will and production will not scale. Okay, and I'm happy with the sources, so I'm not going to uncheck any of those, and I'm going to submit. And it's going to send it back off. It's going to run that one again. I'm going to generate some new results. So you can see it's now generating. Okay, now we've got our result. So let's take a look at that. And let's see. It's got some dyes again, but these ones look different. Got some performance comparisons. There we go. So look, the conclusion here is actually Luco dye systems because they provide the optimal balance of reversibility, scalability, and cost effectiveness. So it has taken into account our feedback and it's actually regenerated the results. So now we've got a list of dyes here that are more fitting to our individual requirements. So that is great. So in addition to some of the changes that we've made in terms of improving the tool that we've already built, we're also introducing an entirely new feature that we think is really going to step things up a notch. So we'd like to introduce you to ARI, or the Artificial Research Intelligence. This is basically the working title for our new fully integrated chatbot. So it knows everything about your research project. This includes research you've generated with AI help, analyses you've run using Phlo, documents that you've uploaded, and all of the project details that are saved for your project, including funding opportunities that you're scoping out, etc., etc. Version 1 is going to be a very simple chat interface present throughout all research project dashboard pages. So you can quickly pull it up and ask questions as you're going through to help you move forward. If you're stuck on something, you're not sure how to serve your customer personas, you want to identify key features that will differentiate your product and include them in the research design process, or you want to refine a grant proposal, then you should need to look no further. Version 2, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. So it's going to be fully integrated with all the tools that are available on Phlo, and we'll be able to carry out tasks automatically for you. Now, it might seem pretty trivial, but this is actually going to seriously level up the workflow and capabilities of this particular modem on Phlo. So you can imagine the scenario where you are running the deep research agent and you're generating some interesting results, but you're not sure whether you're happy with them or not. You can then pull up the agent and say, actually, how do these results, how should I look at these results in light of the customer personas that we've identified? Or how would these results differentiate me from my competitors that we've identified in the competitor analysis? And you can get live feedback from the AI all at the same time. And if you're not sure about any of those things, or you want to rerun one of those things, you can say, hey, actually, I've got some new information here. I think we should rerun the customer analysis, or the competitor analysis rather. And so you can go out and do that just by typing into the chat window. And that is the plan for version 2 of ARI. So I'll give a quick video demonstration of where we're up to so far with ARI. Okay, so I also wanted to introduce you to Ari, our new research wizard. So you can see him here, him/her, down in the bottom right corner. And if you hover over it, you can see it glows up yellow. And let's click on it and see what we can do. So you can see immediately that it comes up with a message, how can I help? Now this research assistant actually has full context on the research project. So at no point within these pages or this whole flow is the title of the project actually displayed, but I can ask it, what is the title of this project? And it should be able to tell us that it is Sensei, a smart baby clothing. Smart baby clothing for enhanced care. There we go. Now, we still have a lot of work to do on the back end of this. So some questions are not supported just yet. But in theory, what will happen is we'll be able to ask this assistant everything about our project. So if I'm, for example, opening up one of these pages, I'm not quite sure how to answer the question, I can open up the research wizard and I can keep both things on screen at the same time. So what will our technology do? What is the intended outcome for the target stakeholders? What will this technology do? Let's see if it knows. There we go. Yeah, so this has full context on the project. Now, obviously, these are very basic questions. These are just answering questions that we've already kind of answered within the answers of this itself. But the idea is that we're going to link this up with the business development features and every other feature that will be available to projects within Phlo. So you could literally ask it anything. So in the case where maybe I'm not sure about a customer segment, or I'm not sure if I'm correctly addressing the needs of a customer segment, I could ask, for example, how could this technology be adapted to alternative customer segments? Now, most likely it's not going to be able to answer this question because we still need to optimize the prompt. There we go. So look, it's saying that it's suggesting that we could adapt this technology for elderly care, healthcare monitoring, athlete performance wear. That's a good idea. Stress monitoring for professionals, educational aids for children, remote family care. So immediately we've come up with a project, we've come up with an idea, we've got our target customer segment, but we can actually start to diversify our product, right? We can look at alternative market entry points and then take that all into consideration in the design of our technology. So obviously, once we link this up with all of the other features, it's just going to get more and more powerful. And it's going to remember everything. So all of these chats, it's going to remember. If I say, actually, I don't like this, or maybe this is a good idea, the next time I open it up, I can ask it about that question. It's going to remind me what we spoke about earlier. But if I feel that it's getting kind of too specific, or it's starting to learn things that I don't want it to learn anymore, or I want it to forget, I can just clear the chat here, and this will delete the AI's memory. Now, it won't delete everything it knows about the project. Obviously, everything that's saved within the project is kind of hard-coded there, so things like the title, the summary, all of the answers to these questions here, and anything that's been saved to the project, like funding opportunities. But yeah, if I delete this here, then it should refresh all of the chat memory, and it will start from scratch. So let's suggest what funding opportunities might be suitable for this project. Now, I don't think we've linked it up with so you can see it's not going to answer questions that it doesn't know yet. So actually, it will just tell you that there's no information provided for this. And that is correct, because if we open up the funding tab, we actually haven't saved any funding opportunities for this particular project. So no hallucinations, but obviously, as I said, we've still got a lot of improvements to make to ensure that this Copilot is a true wizard and can help you really level up your research. So the final key update that we've got from Phlo side is that we are entering part of the Phlo platform into the Bio AI Hackathon. Now, you may have heard of this. Essentially, they are running a AI agents hackathon, basically encouraging teams to develop new AI agents and workflows for scientists. It's pretty broad and open, so there's a lot of scope for developing innovative and novel tools. But obviously, because this is something that we're working on quite intensively anyway, it made sense for us to enter and see really how far we can go with it. So, the tentative plan for what we intend to develop in the hackathon is essentially this. So, right now, we have our translate pipeline that works a little bit like this in the top steps. So, we have use setting priorities and design constraints. That is essentially answering those questions with the research copilot. We then go off and do AI driven analysis and literature review. We then generate key results and extract next steps that you can then carry out as a researcher. But it kind of stops there, doesn't it? Right at the moment. And we don't want it to stop there because research is not a linear it's not a linear A to B process. It's a very circular, iterative process. And so we want to essentially close the loop on that. And this is how we intend to do it. So might seem a little bit obvious, but the next step after getting some recommendations is actually executing them, right? And so if you're a scientist, this might be carrying out some key experiments in a lab, getting some data back, obviously generating and uploading those results onto the Flow platform, and then being able to chat with the AI and decide on new priorities. So it will take this new information that has been generated from the research, close that loop, and be able to go feedback straight back into the original process that is essentially maybe adjusting some of the constraints or um, deprioritizing some of them or reprioritizing some of them, and then going off doing that literature review in even more depth. And so what you get is layers and layers and layers of complexity that just keep going on. And this is why we think this is a perfect kind of use case for Flow for the Bio AI hackathon, because here we're not trying to optimize for cost effectiveness or maximize impact based on by minimizing the amount of AI we're using or the amount of compute we're using. Really, we want to be maximalist with this and just see how many iterations we can run, how complicated we can get with the recommendations, how much information we can store in the memory of the AI agent, and how useful it can ultimately become in advising your research. So that's our plan. Obviously, we've already got this first part built out. And so the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at building out this second part and closing that loop once and for all. And then finally, we want to build a new visualizer to map the research landscape and potential pathways with incorporated feedback loops. So essentially, what this means is we're bringing back technology trees. We're going to repurpose the current version of the flow diagrams in the platform. And instead of mapping like industrial processes or processing steps within a bioprocess, we're actually going to map the flow of knowledge and the potential pathways and options instead. So you'll be able to visually see, okay, this is what the AI has looked at. These are the things that I've chosen. These are the experiments I've carried out. This is what we learned. This is what this implies for the next step. And it will just keep going on and on like that until you are able to fully develop your technology. So that is the goal. And we have lots of work to do. So if we sound a little bit quiet, it's because we've got our heads down and we are hard at work trying to deliver on these promises. But we're very hopeful. We think this is going to be really awesome. And all of the things that get built for Bio AI Hackathon, of course, will be used to improve the Flow platform itself. And so even though we're kind of maximizing for or we're optimizing here not for cost but instead for performance. Obviously, what we learn along the way is going to feed directly back into improving the platform, and maybe even increasing some of the capabilities that we already can offer on this very exciting journey. And I was wrong about finally, because there is one more thing that we're going to do, which is incorporate Crunch-based data pipelines to give additional business context to inform your research design in Flow. So what this essentially means is we're not just now looking at literature and research. We're also looking at market research, customer insights, um, like market trends of which biotech companies are receiving VC investments. We can take all of these analytics from Crunchbase because it has a really, really nice source of data for all of these things. we can analyze that, and then we can give recommendations based on those things to designing your research. So in the case where you might be looking at developing a new crop, we can actually look at, okay, what are the agricultural industries interested in at the moment? Which crops are the priority? What are VCs interested in? What technologies and companies are being invested in already? And what might that mean? There are new opportunities for or are underexplored areas. And so all of these insights will obviously help you design a technology that actually has a place in the market, which is the whole kind of purpose of Flow in the first place. And that is all from me.
Hey guys, thank you so much, Albert, for the research updates and Morgan for the flow update. Let's move on to the marketing updates, shall we? So, in April, as you may know, we have launched our Proof of D-Side podcast series that's available across all the major streaming platforms. So, if you haven't already, make sure to go and follow Proof of D-Side on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, etc. The list is very, very long, and you can definitely find Proof of DeSci and all of our recent episodes on your favorite streaming platforms. With Proof of DeSci, we don't just release the podcast episodes. So the process is actually pretty interesting. So we record the episodes as Twitter Spaces. So there's a live session where people can actually join us. They can ask questions. There's a Q&A session towards the end, and it's more of a kind of live spaces. But then we take the recording and we edit it out slightly and we publish it as a standalone Proof of DeSci podcast episode. And as you can see, that's some of the ways that we do to promote the podcast series. There's obviously the release announcements. There are different snippets, so the most interesting parts of the podcast episodes from this particular week. We take them. Cut them into different little snippets and we share them on our socials, on our Discord and Telegram as snippets to promote this particular episode. Here you can see Albert with the Cocoa Zero episode, which was super cool, and I recommend you to go and listen to it. Something really interesting that we also did. So we did an A/B test of the article. There was a report from the end of the Q1 of 2025. So around April 4th, we have released this article. There was the Q1 update, end of Q1 update. And we've sent it out as a newsletter. We obviously published it across different platforms on Substack, on our newsletter, Medium, CoinMarketCap, etc., Twitter, LinkedIn, the article. But then around 3-4 days later, we had this idea to actually find a different angle to promote the updates, the insights from Q1, from ValleyDAO. And we decided to use this phrase, DeSci is dead. And obviously, it's quite controversial. DeSci is not dead, and we proved it last month, and we keep proving it every single month. But the idea was to capture people's attention with a controversial statement to get these eyeballs, get those people to go and click and actually read the article, read the long form of the Q1 update. So it's the same article as the Q1 update. However, it has a different intro, it has a different banner to promote the article, and it's been kind of a success. And I'll show you some data and statistics in a moment. But what I wanted to say is that this DeSci is dead narrative throughout April was the idea for a mini campaign that we've had. So as you know, ValleyDAO was at DeSci London, was at Biohackathon, where it started in Berlin. We've created different stickers, vinyl stickers with a QR code. When you scan this QR code, you can you get redirected to the DeSci article, so you can read all the updates and insights from Q1 from ValleyDAO, and actually be really bullish on DeSci, because what we've been doing, what we've been working on, it's honestly outstanding. I do recommend to go and get familiar with the updates and insights from the research projects, from the product side of ValleyDAO, and everything that we've been involved with. We've also had some leaflets that we've distributed across those events, promoting Phlo and promoting ValleyDAO and the Grow token. So it's much more of a cohesive strategy that we've been developing and we've been working on. In this particular case, it was just a mini campaign on DeSci is Dead. There was an article, there was some social posts, and there were some stickers in real life. There were some leaflets during those events, which I think it's pretty cool. And it's really cool to understand that we're not just in the digital world, but we actually trying to also make some impact and bring some people into the ecosystem from the real world. Next thing, yeah, so this is a really interesting comparison of those two articles. So you can see end of Q1 2025 update, it generates around 3,000 to 3.2K impressions, whereas, for example, this standalone tweet with the D-Size Dead article generated nearly 10,000 impressions. This is just some form of A/B testing that we've been doing and we will be doing moving forward, to not just to recycle the content, but also to find different narratives and different angles of people, where people may be interested in. As you can see also, here below those two screenshots, there's the white background screenshot. That's some data from our newsletters. As you can see, maybe it's not too big of a difference. However, well, 45% people that received the newsletter with DeSci is Dead article opened it, actually decided to open it, whereas there was 41% of people that received the end of Q1 2025 update, they actually opened it. Maybe not a big difference. However, it's really cool to understand where people minds are at, and how they choose what to click, what to read, what to see, and what to get engaged with. Next thing are some additional activities throughout April. I'm not able to put everything here. We would stay for a few hours and we don't have that much time. But as you can see, we've updated our deck screener page for Grow. For the Grow token, go and check it out. We have released the major research update from Cocoa Zero. As you know, in March, the spotlight was on hempy and the hemp fibers. However, April was mainly about the Cocoa Zero. Stay tuned, obviously, for more research updates because there's plenty to come. Also, what we introduced are short form video content from the interviews that we're recording, we're working on, we're doing with our researchers, which is also really cool to have those kind of 1 minute, 2 minute snippets of interviews in a more engaging way published on our socials. Here, as you can see in April, well, April's been actually the best month this year for us so far. But since January, February, March, and up until April, we've seen a significant growth. This growth is nearly 100%. In April was 92% in terms of impressions. Engagement's going up as well. But what's actually really interesting here, it's not just that we're growing and we're getting more visibility and more exposure, which is incredibly important. That's the aim of what we're doing here in the marketing department at ValleyDAO. But the more impressions you actually get, the less engagement you tend to receive as well, because obviously the algorithm is feeding your content to more people, and not everyone is going to be interested in what you're trying to showcase and what you're trying to give to people, the information. Therefore, usually the more impressions, the more views you get, the less engagement usually you receive, which was not obviously the case in February and March. However, it was in January, but there was not a very strong month for us. But as you can see, there's a steady growth month by month. And I'm super excited to show you what we're going to be doing in May. And in the next community town hall to show you the data and compare April to May. This is our LinkedIn. So as you can see here in the big chart, again, there's been a steady growth from February to March to April. But when April ended and we've hit May 1st, you can see there's this massive significant growth in the month of April, which was incredibly exciting for us to see. Yeah, 266% increase compared to March. That's insane growth. 243% impressions compared to the previous month, which is obviously great to see. And I'm really excited to show you these numbers to you guys to show you how our newly implemented marketing strategies, initiatives, and activities actually making change behind the scenes. And here you can actually see how LinkedIn placed us as ValleyDAO's business page amongst other competitors in the space. Competitors, I wouldn't say competitors. We all work together for the same goal. We want to see the site grow. We want to onboard more people into decentralized science. We want more people to be interested in science itself, in the researches. We want to change the world, each one of the DAOs in the DeSci space, but also we want to make sure that we keep proving that DeSci works. And so it's not really the case, where we at in terms of the competition, because there's not really competition. We all work together for, like I said, the same goal. But it's really interesting to see that amongst other pages, ValleyDAO's impressions, engagement, and social presence has been highly significant. And as you can see, we have placed second in the new follower metrics. In April, we managed to get 157 people to actually click the follow button on LinkedIn. We've released the most posts and the total engagement metrics at 354, which is 348% increase compared to the last 30 days, which was March. And guys, that's all from me. I hope I didn't bore you too much. If there's one thing that I can ask you to is please keep engaging. Keep engaging with ValleyDAO's posts. Make sure to follow ValleyDAO. Turn the notification bell on. Follow Proof of DeSci. Make sure to stay engaged on our Discord and Telegram. Like, comment, share whenever you see something interesting, and give us feedback. If there's something that is maybe not of interest for you, let us know. Let us know how we can improve, because I think that this is the most important. But yeah, keep engaging, keep proving that DeSci works every single day, just like ValleyDAO does.